Hoo-ha! Back at it again. We're getting it started here. RIC, the place to be. Rick Saratella, telling it like it is when it comes to real football talk in the mornings here on the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. This is season 2, episode 34 on this Monday, September 20th, 2021. We are going to chop it up, take out the blades. We got our co-host each and every Monday, Ralph Ventry, with us to talk some college football, take a dive into the FCS, break it down on the NFL, and then try to get through today. And then tomorrow we'll have Russell Landy on a Tuesday, talking more college prospects, hub football right around the corner. Wednesday, it's our international flavor with the European League of Football, the Canadian Football League. My co-host Amanda Ruler up in Canada. We'll have Fit Gamer from checking in from Canada as well this week. And then, of course, Dane Vandernat and Neil Stratton on Thursdays. It's a Football Friday affair on Fridays. Hey, it's your new home for real football talk in the mornings. Rick Saratella here with you for the next hour or so. Samantha on hiatus today, not feeling too well, getting us off the ground and hopefully getting back in bed while Oceana's holding it down behind the scenes. But of course, my co-host each and every Monday is Ralph Ventry. Make sure you go follow him at NEC Ralph. Checking in from Jersey, right up the Parkway. Breaking it down each and every Monday. Good morning, Ralph. NFL Week 2 in the books. I know you're a little bit happier this week than you were last week.
Yeah, I'm ready for an NFL Draft Bible Football Monday. Chop it up, talk a little NFL Week 2. And as you mentioned, Bills on the board with the shutout, 35-0. Of course, there are things to critique from that performance, even though they just kind of steamrolled the Dolphins. But Josh Allen's still a little out of sync, but they got it done. Really, I don't think it would have been much different if had Tua stayed in. He didn't look very sharp on his first 2 possessions before he got knocked out of the game on a 4th down attempt. But yeah, good to see the Bills on the board and a lot of 1-1 teams across the league. The Chiefs are now 1-1. The Ravens are now 1-1. How about those Raiders though? 2-0. Raiders.
Hey now.
Took care of business last Monday. You know, I had the Raiders last Monday, and I know some folks that, I know it's still early, but 2-0, some folks said that this team wasn't going to get 5 wins. But I just always thought that the Raiders had a little too much talent, and even Gruden couldn't screw it up. So I'm not saying they're going to win 10 games, but I didn't think they were a 5-win team. But other than the Raiders, really, and a couple other surprises, a lot of 1-1 teams across the board. Titans, they got on the board against the Seahawks, overcame a big deficit in the second half, so that knocks the Seahawks to 1-1.
Big comeback there.
Yeah, big comeback. Derrick Henry and Tannehill.
The man-child, I call him, Derrick Henry. Maron Mamiya, trying to bring that guy down.
He's a big boy. He is a big boy. There's no doubt about that. So, and then Arizona goes to 2-0, though. That is a 2-0 team. I know you're, like I said, you're a Kingsbury, Kyler Murray believer. And
well, give Kingsbury. I was watching this game.
Horrendous missed field goal. What a buzzkill if you're a Vikings fan. And how about the play-by-play radio announcer? I don't know if you heard that.
I heard it.
He was calling it as it was good.
Yeah.
So that was pretty wild. But, an entertaining week 2 in the NFL. What can you say? Maybe not so much tonight with the Lions on Monday Night Football, but it was a good day to just kick back and enjoy some football on the couch yesterday. That's what happened in the Ventry household.
Yeah, well, hey, I mean, we'll get a prediction for the game tonight. Maybe we'll eat some kneecaps with the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers. But, yeah, I was watching the Cardinals-Vikings with the Prez, Zach Petra, who was here from Minnesota. And, what a heartbreaking loss. So poetically written by the Minnesota organization that the faithful has become accustomed to. But give Cliff Kingsbury some credit there. 4th and 5 on their own 40 or so. Goes for the gusto, man. They go for the gusto, and Kyler Murray just does a Air Jordan off the back foot, fadeaway jump shot, and finds Christian Kirk to set up the game-winning score. Now, hey, they needed a little bit of luck. I thought the field goal was good watching it at home, and then you saw the refs say no good. And so a dramatic one there. It was 23-7 at one point. I think the Seahawks were up over the Titans, and I said, wow, Tennessee is not looking good. They come back. They battle all the way back and take the Seahawks, I think, in overtime. And then you mentioned the Las Vegas Raiders, 2-0. The Denver Broncos, 2-0. We may have a Nick Kendall sighting from SI Mile High. And so the Chargers looking pretty good there, too, against the Cowboys. This AFC and NFC West, the Chiefs, let's go there, Ralph, in a wild one last night. Another team now 1-1 after the Ravens stormed back, 12 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Big play there by Odafe Owa, otherwise known as Jason Owa, who got a lot of criticism for not having any sacks during his career there at Penn State, but you saw the raw upside and athleticism last week, registering his first sack. This week, causing the game-winning fumble with that incredible arm length and the reach, just punching that ball there out at the end to seal the deal for the Baltimore Ravens, who, oh, by the way, Ralph, 15 guys on the IR coming into the game. I think they lost another 2 players during that game to injury. A third of their team basically hurt. And they beat the Chiefs. That's a pretty impressive win there.
Yeah, and Lamar suffers the pick 6 early. He had another interception down near the goal line. But the Ravens battled back, and I think there was, you mentioned a 4th-and-5 for Arizona. Well, how about the 4th down that the Ravens used to seal this one? So, got to give credit to anybody who can outlast the Chiefs. So Chiefs don't lose often, and they went on the road, and Ravens were able to pull it out. But as we saw, Lamar had his moments in the game, but the Ravens put up 36 points, and that's what you're going to have to do to beat the Chiefs, I think. Almost every week you're going to have to score into the 30s if you want to beat that team. They're a machine. It's pretty wild. And then I think they even win that game against the Ravens if it's not for the Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble. So key turnover by the second-year running back out of LSU,
who's looking very average. Who's looking very average, by the way, Ralph.
Yeah, obviously a high draft pick, and there were high hopes for him, especially last year as a freshman running back in the fantasy world. He was such like a sexy pick, and I think a lot of that just had to do with the fact that they were plugging him in to this high-powered offense. But as it turns out, he's not really bringing anything, adding anything to this Kansas City Chiefs attack. This offense goes as Patrick Mahomes goes, as Travis Kelce goes, and as Tyreek Hill goes. You have to find a way to stop those guys. And Helaire, though, hasn't yet brought another dimension to this team. I don't think he's had many good rushing performances as a pro. I think there's one game in particular, actually, when they beat up on Buffalo last year in that rescheduled game and the Chiefs kind of just had the game plan of let's just run. The Bills were given the run because they wanted to stop Mahomes from going off, and I think the Chiefs ran for over 200 yards in that game. But outside of that, I mean, that's one performance in what, maybe 15 starts now. I don't know if he started every single game last year, but obviously, we're 18 games, 18 regular season games into his career, and like I said, there's been nothing that's really popped off the screen when it comes to Edwards-Helaire. But with that said, the Chiefs, they're pretty good. There's no doubt about that. I mean, like you
Well,
said,
they've got a lot more flaws though in years past. I think, when they lost Le'Veon Bell, they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They had a couple other guys in the backfield there. And you look at what the Ravens did, though. I mean, hey, they just keep it moving. This Tyshawn Williams, Devonta Freeman, Latavius Murray. Makes you wonder about investing in a first-round pick at running back. But, Mecole Hardman, I mean, you saw what they did with Tyreek Hill. They put two guys on Tyreek Hill and basically took him out of the game. And so when you get beyond Hill and Kelsey underneath, aside from Mecole Hardman, who can, run the fly route, what are the Chiefs? It's not like they've got this huge firepower like in years past where, the Sammy Watkins loss, I thought, was a big deal. Suddenly, Hardman is now your number two guy. And they got 5 new starters on the offensive line. We talked about it last week. As good as it is on paper, I still got to see it to believe it. And that offensive line is still meshing. But I think, again, it goes back to you pay the top dollar to your quarterback position. It's hard to retain the pieces. And Tom Brady's still taking hometown discounts so they can keep their all 22 starters and then some. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how this AFC West suddenly shapes up with the Broncos and Raiders jumping out to a 2-0 start. And we've got our first guest here today, so who better to talk about the Broncos than Nick Kendall, who joins us here on the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network, on Sports Illustrated, senior Broncos reporter at SI. Go check him out. Nick, good morning. How are you today, brother?
Doing pretty well. Always good to be 2-0. So can't complain. Have not seen that in Denver since 2018. But Vic Fangio didn't have a September win before this year. Better yet, let's have 2. So feeling pretty good.
Yeah, it's been quite some time since the Broncos were riding high and they get off to this 2-0 start. I think the defense is looking pretty good there. Cortland Sutton, I know, with a big day. Yeah. And, hey, Teddy B steering the ship. We kind of saw something similar, last year with him in Carolina where they got off to this hot start. Let's start with Teddy B. Do you kind of see him being able to sustain over the long haul?
Being able to sustain. I don't. Obviously, the Giants have a very good defense on paper. The Jags not as much, but so far it looks like, to my eye, I haven't been charting it exactly, that teams have been stacking the box, saying, "Okay, Teddy, beat us with your arm continually. We're going to take away the run," and he's done that 2 games in a row. So it's a good time in Bronco country to have a competent quarterback. First time in a while. It's good to watch that, and if you can do that, protect the football and play good defense, you can beat just about anybody in this league.
Yeah, and I saw Javonte Williams, the rookie running back, getting into the mix yesterday, helping to kind of ease that burden between the 2-man backfield along with Melvin Gordon. We got Nick Kendall, SI.com for the Denver Broncos beat here with Rick Saratella, Ralph Ventry. Ralph, what do you got here for Nick today talking Broncos?
Well, 2 questions. First off, I know they beat the Giants and the Jaguars. It's not like they beat 2 premium opponents, but with that said, a win is a win in the NFL, and 2-0 is 2-0. Other than the play of Bridgewater, who he was great yesterday, I think it was 328 yards and 2 touchdowns. Other than the play of Bridgewater, what has been propelling these Broncos to victory in the first couple of weeks of the season?
Yeah, I mean, really good defense, obviously, is another one, holding the Jags to, I think it was 7 points. It was the Giants 7 points, too, until they gave up a garbage time touchdown. So the defense, obviously, has been really good. Von Miller looks like vintage Von Miller, and you're getting wins from different people as well. The Broncos already are leaning on depth of some players because they've had a good amount of injuries already. Nobody really season long, so they're going to get some guys back. But cornerback, you already have in your depth tested. Wide receiver, you already have in your depth tested in the interior offensive line. So those have been really good. It's one of the better Broncos rosters in a while that they could lean on that depth. And you're right about playing the Jags, playing the Giants, but you can only answer the questions that are asked. And the Broncos have done that so far. So, yep, they gave up a 23-13, but they were mostly in control of this game the entire time. And defense looks really good. They're just playing complementary football. I do want to see the run game get a little bit more efficient. The run blocking has not been great, especially from the interior and the tight ends. But beating the teams that are in front of you, that's what good teams do.
Go ahead,
One more
Ralph.
question about the quarterback position, and that's Drew Locke. What's the vibe around him? Will they ever go back to him at any point in time? If not for injury, he's got physical talent. There's no question about that. He can sling the football. It hasn't quite worked out as they had planned, but what's he doing now? Is he being a good backup, a good teammate? And do you ever see him getting on the field again for the Broncos outside of injury to Bridgewater?
Right now, I'd say I do not see that. Obviously, Teddy Bridgewater only has 1 year left on his deal, while Drew Locke has 2, so things could change there. But as far as this season goes, if not injury, the way Teddy is playing right now, especially with how this team is built around him, you don't need to have a guy out there making crazy highlight plays. You just need like a Rajon Rondo point guard type, getting the ball to Noah Fant, getting the ball to Jerry Jeudy when he's back, getting the ball to Cortland Sutton, protecting the football. And that's stuff that Drew Locke struggled with last year, and Teddy seems to be excelling at it early. So no, I do not see Drew Locke getting on the field except for injury. That said, 17-game season, Bridgewater's had injuries in the past. I do think there will be some point where, there's a ding, a hangnail, that kind of thing, and you see Drew Locke out there. But right now it seems like to be Teddy's team. The locker room is rallying around Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, one of the Pod Pipers of the NFL. Everywhere he goes, people love Teddy. So it's Teddy's team. Sorry, Locke. Or we'll see what happens with him in the future, but it's Teddy time.
MileHighHuddle.com, one of the premier beat writer sites on the SI.com platform. Make sure you follow Nick Kendall, who's providing great insight here on the state of football, your home for real football talk in the mornings. We can't thank him enough for waking up early on the West Coast and joining us here to break down those undefeated Broncos and another, I don't want to say gimme, but maybe a layup here with the Jets coming up. Before we get to that, Nick, I want to talk about the quarterback position a little bit more, though, because, the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes at some point is bound to heat up again. And you hear, hey, maybe the Eagles are monitoring this situation. I wouldn't rule out the Dolphins. I look at this Denver Broncos roster, though, and I see the success they had doing it with Peyton Manning a few years back. Maybe a similar situation where this defense, you can argue, is one of the top in the league. They seem to have suddenly some playmakers and weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Do you think the Denver Broncos will kind of continue to monitor? Are they a player here in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, do you think?
I think they were early on, but until all the stuff came out surrounding Watson, they backed out of that and really shifted focus onto Aaron Rodgers. I mean, first it was Matt Stafford, then it was Deshaun Watson, then it was Aaron Rodgers. So I do think that if Aaron Rodgers becomes available again, they will focus on him. There's also a chance for a veteran that becomes available, maybe a Matt Ryan. That Falcons team looks dreadful. I'm not sure how the contract would work out there. Maybe even a Kirk Cousins if they move on, but it does not sound like Deshaun Watson is in the Broncos' plans right now, from what I've seen, at least until all this stuff surrounding him has been cleared or not.
Okay,
but on paper that makes sense. I mean, he's really talented. This team, with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes in the division, building a defense every single year, not really a sustainable model when you have two of the best young quarterbacks in football. You got to figure out the quarterback position. I'm not sure if Teddy Bridgewater is long term or not. In theory, a Watson would make sense, but it's really hard with the stuff surrounding him.
Yeah, and Derek Carr, whether you like him or not, I mean, he led the NFL in passing this week, I think, 384 yards. So All right, Ralph Ventry, Rick Saratella, Nick Kendall. One final one here for Nick, Ralph.
Yeah. What are you guys looking at in week 3? Ready to go to 3-0? What's the feeling in Broncos country?
I think before this team prior, these used to feel like trap games. But people are really getting in line to Teddy Bridgewater. He's been in the league long enough that he's seen a few things, and this team's really needed. It's one of the youngest offenses in NFL too. They've needed that kind of guy, that kind of leadership. So I don't think they're overlooking the Jets at all. I think that this is Denver as much, the Nuggets have been good, had a few good years with the Rockies and the Avalanche, but it's a football city, and this city is ready to love this team. It's been tough there for a few seasons now. They're not used to this losing. So to come home 2-0 versus the Jets, I think the vibes are going to be amazing. And this is a team that I think is not going to overlook the Jets and hopefully beat them in dominating fashion. I mean, we saw what happened with Zach Wilson this last week versus Bill Belichick. Welcome to the NFL, Zach. And now he gets to go to Denver to play one of the deepest defenses in football against the Vic Fangio defense as well, which can really confuse rookie quarterbacks. It's rough out there for those Jets, but I think it's going to be a good game for the Broncos. They should win, just like they should have beaten the Jags, and hopefully they'll be 3-0. And again, people will be paper tigers, beating up nobodies, but you only beat the teams in front of you. That's good. That's what good teams do. Take care of business against those kind of teams.
That's
exactly.
right. And then,
you are what your record says you are, right, Rick?
That's right. And then we'll find out who the contenders and pretenders are, because I think they got the Steelers and the Ravens on deck. After that, I know Nick Kendall's got a lot of great content on deck over at milehighhuddle.com. Nick, hit us with the website, the handle, all the great content you have. I can't even keep up with you guys because you're just crushing it over there.
Yeah, over at Mile High Huddle, covering the Denver Broncos for Sports Illustrated. Join us also on our Facebook groups, search Mile High Huddle, and join us on YouTube. Obviously, I do a bit of writing over there, but my main role has been the live streams, the podcast, doing shows twice a week, Thursday morning at 6:30 Pacific time. So I'm always up this early to do these shows. Got my coffee in hand, and 7:30 Mountain time. And you can also find us every single night at 6:00 Mountain Time PM for the live stream. So we're bringing at you, audio, visual, audio, everything going on here at Mile High Huddle to cover your Broncos the best we can.
Awesome. You guys are doing incredible work, and we appreciate it. And we appreciate the time here, Nick. Hopefully we can have you hop back on as we get closer to that Broncos playoff run later on in the season.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Broncos have some injuries right now to some great players. Let's get those guys back and healthy, and hopefully have some good games. And man, AFC West, I think the Chargers finally took that first L yesterday for the division, but it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be tough.
It is. It's going to be a tough grind, but that's what we do here on the State of Football. That's Nick Kendall making his debut, and we'll definitely have him back. We sign off with the Mile High salute, and we say, see you later, Nick. And that AFC West is going to be something to watch as it continues to unfold here. We talked about some of the warts that the Chiefs had. I thought the Chargers had a shot to almost pull it off there against Dallas. And, it looks like another W here coming up for the Broncos with Zach Wilson on the deck. Ralph, you saw 4 interceptions, I believe. Battle of the rookie quarterbacks. It was an ugly game with the Patriots and the Jets, with the Patriots coming out on top. I think it was 23-6, but Coach Robert Saleh, not exactly how he dreamt of the start of his tenure here on Broadway.
Yeah, and I sensed a little bit of a buzz from Jets fans going into this game, getting to see their rookie quarterback at home. And, that place got deflated pretty quickly. But you mentioned, hey, battle of the rookie quarterbacks. I don't know exactly what Mac Jones did to knock your socks off on the other side. Maybe a mediocre performance by Mac. But Zach Wilson, I think, 4 interceptions within the first 10 pass attempts. It's just a tough day at the office, but it's no reason to give up on him. We're in week 2 of the freshman year. So I don't think it's time to hit the panic button, but just kind of a bummer, I guess you would say, if you're a Jets fan. I don't know what your expectations are to begin with. I don't think they're more than 6 wins if you're a Jets fan. I don't think you'll have the high expectations, but you wanted to see nice day outside, home game, September. You wanted to see your rookie quarterback give you a little something, and they just laid an egg. There's no other way to put it. Against the Patriots team that hasn't really looked overly impressive at any time during the first 2 weeks either. So I don't think the AFC East is shaping up to be the gauntlet that maybe some thought. I don't think the Dolphins are legit. I think you saw that yesterday, and who knows what the long-term prognosis is for Tua. Possible rib injury, and even if he's back on the field, like I said, he was sacked on his twice on his first possession, and then the second possession ended with him getting pressured, throwing an incomplete pass on fourth down, and A.J. Epinesa bringing him to the turf, and that's when he suffered the apparent injury. But with that said, I think it's the AFC East is the Bills division. No matter how you cut it, I don't want to sound cocky, and I want to see Josh Allen play all 17 games, but I think the Bills even win the division with Mitchell Trubisky in there.
Hey, good old Mitch. Good old Mitch was in there for the V formation there at the end.
Yeah, exactly. He got a couple snaps, but maybe we should have actually seen him a little earlier in that game because it was in hand. But with that said, it goes back to experience at the quarterback position. And the Jets have a rookie in there. The Patriots have a rookie in there. The Dolphins have a second-year guy who really they treated real strangely during his rookie season, pulling him in key moments for Fitzpatrick. But now he's injured, and Jacoby Brissett is Jacoby Brissett. So really, nothing too exciting going on over there in MetLife Stadium yesterday for the Patriots or the Jets. Even though the Patriots get on the board with their first win, winning, I guess you would say that's winning convincingly. I don't know.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your boy Gregory Rousseau, who I think I saw had 2 sacks yesterday. Did you like what you saw from that young man?
I do, and that's why I predicted him as my defensive rookie of the year. I do have a little Buffalo bias, just a little, but he was somebody who was being noticed during training camp, and maybe he's somebody that would have gotten drafted higher had he played a senior season at Miami and not opted out for the COVID. But physically, he's just so long. It's like he just reaches out and he's already in the quarterback's face. And he had a couple decent plays against Pittsburgh as well. And you mentioned the 2 sacks yesterday. With that said, the Bills haven't faced great offensive lines in either of the first 2 weeks. Pittsburgh obviously had a remade offensive line, and I don't think this Dolphins unit was really good. Is very good. Bills had 6 sacks yesterday. But you mentioned Rousseau, and A.J. Epinesa is a guy who kind of had a disappointing rookie season, but he's looked good in his first 2 outings this season, and he's a guy that they're getting some production from up front. But with that said, nobody in that division's 2-0. I think we hit on all the 2-0 teams except for the Carolina Panthers, right, and the Los Angeles Rams, of course. But how about, Rams a little less of a surprise. Panthers, hey, I know they had that hot start last year. What do you think? Let's go with Carolina first. What you like what you're seeing down there with Matt Rule, and is this a Sam Darnold renaissance? Is this a rebirth here? Is this Is this real?
Yeah, I mean, I'll pump the brakes on Sam Darnold. I'll give more credit to Joe Brady than I do Sam Darnold there. New Orleans, by the way, has a terrible secondary from what I recall. But, kudos to Phil Snow. I saw him getting some love out there. I always said when Coach Rule left Temple, I said if Temple lets Phil Snow walk that door, they just don't know what they're doing. And we're seeing why everywhere Rule goes, from Temple to Baylor to now Carolina, Phil Snow has been there every step of the way. I can argue he might be the most brilliant defensive coordinator in the league right now. And there's a reason why they drafted all defense that first draft, because Coach Rule is no dummy. He said, let me get Coach Snow his guys, and I'll work with what I can. I think the Sam Darnold is an experiment. They're going to see if they can tap into some of the potential there. I still don't see it. I know the numbers look good on paper. I don't see a superstar quarterback when I turn on the film and watch Sam Darnold. So I'm not buying into that hype. However, the Panthers, even when Christian McCaffrey was down last year with mediocre quarterback play, even though their record wasn't great, they were in every single game. That team clawed and scrapped, quite literally, pun intended, those Carolina Panthers. So, I mean, I think they're going to hang out and be in the playoff contention. However, again, I wouldn't rule them out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, because I think you swap out Sam Darnold in place of Deshaun Watson, Carolina Panthers got as good a shot as anybody to run the table.
Yeah, I think you could say that for a lot of teams. If you switch in Deshaun Watson, that they're immediately better. But who knows what's going on with that legal situation? I don't think we've gotten any clarity or any updates. All we've gotten from the Texans is that he's been a healthy scratch the last 2 weeks for non-injury related issues. So I don't know about you, but I haven't heard much coming out of there. With that said, I think Miami's a team that would love Deshaun Watson. That would probably make the most sense.
No, you're right. I mean, I think there's more questions than answers there. You mentioned the Rams. Carson Wentz, another big injury. I mean, this guy's like a China doll. I'm hearing he might be done for the season. So
really, is that this is a serious injury suffered?
I'm hearing it might be pretty serious. I don't have official confirmation, but that's just what I heard. Andy Dalton as well it got injured yesterday, and so Justin Fields will be taking the reins. So a lot of big injuries around the league yesterday, Ralph.
So where does that leave the Colts in your eyes? Does Jacob Eason, are the Colts a playoff team with Eason under center?
I don't see that. I think it's just another growing year and a learning year, unfortunately. And the Colts, really, again, a team that really has the infrastructure. And I think the Carson Wentz was another experiment, right? And so, at the very least, Ralph, hopefully we get some compelling TV with this in-season Hard Knocks, because the Indianapolis Colts will be the featured team there. So it's just unfortunate, since the Andrew Luck retirement. I know Phil Rivers gave it a go, but it's just been an unfortunate, kind of roll of the dice there in Indy.
Yeah, and I kind of feel for Frank Reich, because being a Bills fan, he has a place in my heart, and I think he's a great offensive coach. And, I like his approach as a head coach. I think he's made the playoffs the last 2 years, and the 1 year they had like a 1-5 start, and they came storming back. And if Frank Reich had a quarterback like Andrew Luck, the Colts would be one of the premier teams in the NFL. At least the AFC, if not the NFL. So I do think the Colts have a solid defense as well. Obviously, Leonard is a tremendous player, and it goes a lot deeper than him. But yeah, I got a question. I don't know how good the Colts are with the Eason at quarterback. I don't know how much Eason can do. Seems like he's just a run-of-the-mill backup in this league. maybe we'll be proven wrong. With that said, I'm not saying that he fits here, but does Cam Newton fit anywhere in the NFL? Do we see him surface? You mentioned injuries to quarterbacks. Obviously, in Chicago, that you mentioned that opens it up for Justin Fields. His rookie campaign is going to kick off maybe a little earlier than we thought. But obviously, Washington with Taylor Heinecke in there, Fitzpatrick out for on IR. Heinecke being the only quarterback. Does Cam Newton fit there? You probably think they would have done it already, but maybe Ron Rivera just has had enough of Cam Newton or just doesn't want to go down that road. But do you see Cam Newton with the job in the next few weeks?
It's a tough one because I didn't really see a competent starting quarterback even when he was healthy and playing. So if anything, I would say that.
I mean, he's better than a Jacob Eason, though, right? I mean,
is he? I don't know. I don't know about that. So, I mean, do you want to bring him in there as an insurance policy to just hang out? I could understand it. I think Miami would make the most sense if they have playoff aspirations. Listen, Tua, he's been another one going back to Alabama. You got to question the durability, and if he's not healthy, and God forbid something happens to Brissett, I think you bring in Cam as an healthy inactive, but really just, I hate to say it, more as a mentorship role for Tua as a star quarterback who's gone through an injury rehab process and what it's like to be questioned and doubted and handled the spotlight and have these super aspirations. That to me probably makes the most sense. Otherwise, Philadelphia, I know they got Joe Flacco. Do I feel great about that? And that was going to be my next question, because the NFC least, again, maybe not the most competitive, but the most unpredictable, Ralph. And it was a two-part question. We've been talking quarterbacks. I mean, the New York Football Giants, clearly the Buffalo Bills are the king of New York, but it's tough, brother, to be a New Jersey football fan right now between the Giants and the Jets. And I think this is now the 7th consecutive season that the Giants have started off 0-2 in the third year for Daniel Jones. You would hope he could outduel a Taylor Heinecke Thursday Night Football showdown. But what is your take with the Giants? Where do you see this NFC least? Who's taking the crown here? I mean, Eagles looked competitive. They looked good week 1. They were competitive against the Niners. Who you got in the NFC least?
Well, Washington was my preseason pick. That was considering Ryan Fitzpatrick as the starting quarterback. But you know what? It's still early, and I think this division is so messy that I'll just stick with Washington. Nice win by the Cowboys over the Chargers. With that said, Dak didn't look overly impressive, and their high-flying offense didn't put up any kind of crazy numbers. So I'm still not a huge believer in Dallas. They're more just like a fantasy nerd dream team rather than a football team that I think is going to be a contender. So I'll stick with Washington. With that said, by the way, Taylor Heinecke, just a shout out to all the FCS folks out there, because I know everybody loves the Division I football championship subdivision. Taylor Heinecke was a Walter Payton Award winner as a quarterback for Old Dominion before ODU moved up to the FBS. So I actually was at the dinner where Heinecke was awarded to Payton, and really a nice guy, good kid at the time, so humble, and it's cool to see him get his opportunity. But you mentioned like him going up against Daniel Jones, first round draft pick. Taylor Heinecke, as far as an NFL player, was taken off the scrap heap essentially by Washington. I know he had a little history as a third string quarterback in Carolina, and I think he also had a cup of coffee at one time with Minnesota. But you get the point. Taylor Heinecke wasn't this heralded prospect. Meanwhile, he's going up on Thursday Night Football and outshining the Giants' gem of a first rounder, Daniel Jones, and just I'm not going to feel bad for the Giants because they won 4 Super Bowls, and I'm tired of living in a Giants Giants country. But man, that loss was a gut punch on Thursday night, and then especially with the penalty. Was it a penalty? Was it not? With the field goal, but even to be
the new star receivers, Galladay yelling at him on the sidelines.
Yes, going after his quarterback on the side.
Kadarius Toney.
Some great optics right there. But
ugly.
I don't think Jones is terrible. I don't think he's good. I think that he could probably be a middle of the road starter in the NFL. Maybe his ceiling, if all goes well, is
Ralph. He's got 30 starts in the league. I can see it from the game on Thursday night. After 3 career starts, Tyler Heinecke's a better quarterback.
Wow, strong words from Rick Saratella suggesting that the Giants should move on from Daniel Jones.
I like that. That's the clickbait headline right there.
You can't. As much as you may want to see the team move on from Daniel Jones, you can't say you want to see Mike Glennon in there. I mean, come on. I mean, we talk about how's Cam Newton's out of football. How is Mike Glennon in the NFL? Like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, Ralph. We'll just leave that one right there. It's Rick Saratella. It's Ralph Ventry. We got the blade sharpened. We're chopping it up here on this beautiful Monday morning, September 20th, 2021. Shout out to all the chat room people. I see it in there. Craig T. Smith, Brian Beasley, everybody else who tunes in each and every day. Tom Goodhines, Daniel Cassidy, all my chat room people. We're here for you. Shout out to Big Law holding it down on the Football Friday, the Saturday tailgate show, along with the Prospect Profits. A lot of good predictions there. I saw my guy Alec Polito picked the upset special with Fresno State over UCLA. Ralph, I'll get your thoughts on the FCS here in just a second, but before we do, it's prediction time, of course, for recreational purposes. There's some Monday Night Football tonight. Green Bay Packers hosting the Detroit Lions. Packers here very heavily favored, double digits, I believe, last time I checked. Similar to a week ago when the Lions took on the 49ers and fell behind quite significantly, but came back there at the end, and little backdoor competitiveness with the Lions and making it a game and making you sweat it out there to the very end. Green Bay, obviously that big 38-3 trouncing dealt to them at the hands of Jameis W. Winston a week ago. Do the Packers bounce back in a big way? We've seen Rodgers work a lot of magic, his theatrics on Monday Night Football. What do you think here with the Packers hosting the Lions in this black and blue divisional matchup?
Well, after that week 1 performance for Green Bay, if they were in need of a get-right game, it would be now, and I guess the Lions would be the perfect opponent for that. I don't know many people who had high expectations for the Lions coming into this year, but if Aaron Rodgers wants to look like Aaron Rodgers again and reignite that Devonta Adams connection, tonight may be the night to do it against what's really a lesser roster talent-wise from the Lions. With that said, we don't want to overreact to week 1, and you saw evidence of what week 1 overreactions could mean in week 2. You saw evidence of that yesterday, why you don't want to overreact to week 1. We saw plenty of reasons why. So, I mean, with that said, I mean, the Packers just didn't look – they looked kind of lifeless in their opener, and Aaron Rodgers just – he didn't look like he was all there. So maybe that changes tonight in a game that they should win, and obviously the odds makers have them heavily favored. So I think you got to go with the Packers in this situation, even though this is the get right game for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I see it very similar to how Vegas sees it. I got 30-20 Packers over the Lions. I think they get healthy on offense. I think Rodgers gets a few touchdowns on the board. I also think the defense allows a few touchdowns, and maybe Jared Goff there isn't able to convert them all into end zone scores, but they'll get a couple field goals, a couple scores. The Lions will keep it competitive there in terms of what the line is, and so 30-20. I got the Packers over the Lions. Ralph is on board with the Packers as well. All right, a few minutes left to play around with here, Ralph. Some more FCS upsets this past week. I know 12, I think 12 now FCS wins over FBS opponents. That's a lot that we've seen here in quite some time. But give us your finger on the pulse with the FCS and the NEC. What do you got?
Well, FCS, a couple of the top teams were idle this week. Sam Houston State, South Dakota State, they had open dates. James Madison had a nice win over a top 10 team. They knocked off Weber State by 2 touchdowns. So a nice showing for JMU.
And shout out to the kicker, by the way, Heinecke, who broke the FCS all-time record, 176 career field goals. 20 more, Ralph. He breaks the all-time NCAA held by Gonzalez in the NFL now. Zane Gonzalez, I think, has 196. So Ratcliffe there on James Madison within striking distance. Big record-breaking weekend for that young man.
Yeah, and anytime you can have an accurate, trustworthy kicker at this level, you have so much of an advantage. And he's made some big kicks over the years because James Madison has played in a number of big games. So it'll be interesting to see if he could hunt down that number 1 overall spot. As far as FCS on the national scene, you mentioned the victories over the FBS teams, and that's always great to see. Bryant out of the NEC actually played an FBS team for the first time in program history. They were tied with Akron at 14 after 3 quarters, and then Akron stepped on the gas in the 4th quarter and posted a 35-14 victory. But some nice plays in that game from the Bryant Bulldogs. Ryan Sadler, linebacker, had a great day. They stopped Akron on a goal line situation at the end of the first half. Then they recovered a fumble in the red zone later in the game. So that's great to see, stepping up to a higher level of competition. For a team like Bryant, even though they didn't get the win, you can take a lot out of a game like that. So yeah, NEC play. We had a little taste of NEC play in September. St. Francis beat Wagner, and we only had 3 conference games in September. We'll go back into full swing the second week of October, and then run throughout the rest of the season, conference games throughout. So, yeah, it's just good to be back. Saturdays and Sundays are a lot of fun this time of year.
Always chopping it up here with the Northeast Conference. He is Ralph Ventry, co-commissioner of the NEC. Of course, stay tuned for the NEC Front Row, NEC Chop Shop throughout the course of the week up at NEC Football. Always a lot of fun to record that and get it out there before the kickoffs on Friday, Saturday, tentatively-ish. It comes out before and gives you everything you need to know from the Northeast Conference. So St. Francis trying to state their case this week. Of course, they'll have their work cut out for them throughout the season, as Central Connecticut State and Duquesne and of course Sacred Heart. We saw Craig Haley, the running back Julius Chestnut, seeking a second medical opinion there. So we'll be continuing to monitor that situation. But this has been another fun Monday here on the September 20th, 2021. For Rick Saratella, Ralph Ventry, we will be back at it again tomorrow on a Tuesday. We'll see you then, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate all the love and support.